Yo, what you saying, my fellow Saiyans? My computer is absolutely bugging out, so hopefully I'll get this recording.
Regis from the road.
Yeah, I'll
That's
be
right.
using Regis's video for, this review. Just gonna go over the new cards and discuss them because I'm a Hearthstone beast, so why not? Shout out Regis Kilbin. Sure you know him already. It's just better to use his than to use mine. I'm not going to go full screen as otherwise my computer will probably crash. Probably crash anyway. So we'll start with the part 2 just because there are less cards with that. So Rise of Shadows, all that good stuff. We start out with Swampqueen Hagatha. Pretty easy card to review here, I think. So 7 mana 5/5 Battle Cry. Add a 5/5 horror to your hand. Teach it 2 shaman spells. So essentially you'll get the 5/5, you'll have the option of choosing 2 spells, I guess, and I think he explains here that if the first one is a targeted spell, the second one won't be, which is pretty nice because otherwise it would be very RNG heavy. Targeted effects with an effect such as this I don't think is that great anyway. Or maybe it might just cause bugs if you have to target more than one thing. I don't know, but as far as the card itself, it's pretty good. I would say, probably like 3 to 4 stars in standard. Like at face value, it's a very powerful effect, but the reality is that the effect is delayed. That's the only reason why it isn't a 5-star effect. If you didn't get the 5/5 and it was just Battle Cry activate 2 shaman spells, it would be absolutely a 5-star card. The only reason why it isn't that is because the effect is delayed. However, you still get really good value off it. In Arena, it's obviously a 5-star card, like super good in Arena. But yeah, in Constructed, it's good in control settings. It's good when you're ahead of the game already. I assume that the 5/5 horror will cost 5 as well, so yeah, not bad, but in terms of where it actually fits, it only really fits in a control shaman sort of build or curve based shaman that will be looking to be ahead on tempo, because if you're behind, this doesn't help you at all, and you're losing, you're losing Volcano already, which is a big spell. Hagatha's Scheme isn't quite the replacement for that yet. So yeah, I'll probably lowball this, to be honest. I'll say this is a 3-star card in Constructed, but it's a good 3-star card. It's a 3-star card that definitely is a good card. It gives you value. Can never really complain about that. And if you do make it to the next turn, you can get some very, very blowout plays with this. Like, yeah, there are plenty of silly combinations, but there are also plenty of bad combinations because Shaman, does have some pretty terrible spells in their class. So, yeah, very RNG based, a lot of variants, but very cool in terms of the lore, and yeah, just a pretty good card. Then for the next one, he talks about this one for a while. Were there just 2 here? Yeah, there are only 2 cards revealed in this one. That's interesting. So you've got Togwaggle Scheme, 1 mana. Choose a minion, shuffle 1 copy of it into your deck, and upgrades each turn. I really like this card. I think that it's a very sneaky little card. Plenty of weird synergies with it. It's interesting because Lab Recruiter is very good in some situations, mainly in Wild, because you can abuse what's it called, the 3 mana 2/2 Murloc that draws 2 for both players, the Fatigue card. So this really helps that deck in Wild, and in that sense, like, this is a better version of the effect compared to Lab Recruiter. Firstly, because it costs 1 less, which, even if it were just choose a friendly minion, that would be noteworthy compared to Lab Recruiter. but also just for the fact that you can choose any minion with it. I think that that's something that people might sleep on, and you can shuffle multiple copies of something as well. So say this is in your hand for a really long time, and they play, you know, a big minion that you might want to copy, like they play their Janalayo or whatever that Dragonhawk thing is called. They get their Ragnaros. You're like, okay, shuffle a few Ragnaros into your own deck, kill it. There are plenty of weird applications for this, so I think that it's a good card for what it is. Obviously, the downsides are obvious. It isn't a card that gives you any immediate value. It's very synergy focused. It isn't just a generic good card by any means, but for what it is, it's very good for what it is. Even if it were just 1 mana, choose a friendly minion, shuffle 1 copy of it into your deck, that would be like average but still useful for what it is. So the fact that it's upgraded compared to that version of the card by not only being restricted to friendly minions, meaning that you can use it to copy your opponent's minions in some instances, which might be useful, and also that you can shuffle more than 1 copy of it if you manage to hold on to this card over time. It's very good, and it's certainly a better scheme compared to Hagatha's scheme, which I guess we'll discuss in a second, because I'll go back to the old cards and discuss them. So yeah, this is pretty good actually. I'd give it I'll give it 3 stars in constructed as well, just because like this is sort of the opposite to Swampqueen Hagatha as far as where I give a 3-star. Like Swampqueen Hagatha is a generic good card that will be a 3-star in constructed, because even as a generic good card, it's not always what you want it to be. Like it's low impact, but there aren't any synergy requirements in order to play Swampqueen Hagatha. While with this is obviously like a very bad card in a generic sense, but if you have the right synergies with it, then this card can be super duper good. So yeah, it's pretty good for what it is. In Arena, this is 1 star, like absolute trash in Arena. Do not play this card in Arena. But yeah, I expect this will come up quite a lot in Wild, really, like Kingsbane, Rogue. Is Kingsbane getting rotated out? Yeah, Kingsbane is getting rotated out. So in Wild, this will definitely come up. So pretty good, yeah. I'd say 3-star for constructed, 1 star for Arena, and for Swampqueen Hagatha, 3-star for standard or constructed. Maybe 4-star at a push, but really I don't think it's quite 4-star. I think 3-star is pretty fair for it. Like, it's a great card, but a 3-star card in terms of its functionality. And then 5 stars for Arena. So now, hopefully I don't jinx it, my computer crashes, but I'll go over all the initial cards and review them as well. So as you can see, we've got 8 here, and this was what prompted me to want to do these sort of reviews in the first place, because I think that people, you know, aren't quite on it as far as how they're reviewing all these cards. So we'll start off with Archvillain Rafaam. 7 mana, 7/8 taunt. Replace your hand and deck with legendary minions. So firstly, for Arena, this is a 5-star card. Like in Arena, I would say this is, yeah, I think 5-star is fair. I can't really go like 6-star for it, because you might not always draw it, and it's a pretty late drop. In Arena, this card is insane. However, in Constructed, I would say this card is literally like 1 star. This card is like this card is unplayably bad in Standard, which I think a lot of people won't get just reading it, but I mean, it seems quite obvious. Like in any constructed format, your deck is going to have a game plan. Your deck is going to be working towards a certain thing. Any card that forces you to, you know, change your deck's game plan isn't going to be that good, especially when it's RNG based. So in theory, yeah, you're replacing all your cards with legendary minions is pretty good. The card quality of legendary minions tends to be pretty high, so, and you get the randomness of potentially getting multiple legendaries, but really it's just complete RNG, and you're sacrificing your deck's primary game plan just to be able to do this. It isn't it isn't going to be very good. Unless Warlock somehow has a way to take advantage of the deck manipulation, but it's doubtful. This card honestly isn't that good. In Arena, again, it's very, very good, but in Standard it's pretty much unplayable unless you're like a new player sort of doing free to play and this is the first legendary you get or something. Then yeah, you should try this out, but outside of that, like, even with Stonehill Defender, it would have been a bit of a push. If you discover this off Stonehill Defender, you might just take it, but you might not want to play it straight away. But yeah, replacing your hand and deck with legendary minions isn't as good as it reads. Like, it's a very cool effect. Again, like Swampqueen Hagatha, it's a very stylish effect. I like it, but yeah, the card is pretty much unplayable. Give it 1 star pretty easily. Then you've got Chef Nomi, which is actually a sick card. I love this design. So, Battlecry, if your deck is empty, summon 6/6/6 Greasefire Elementals. Now, this card is actually sick. I don't want to over evaluate it. It's certainly not a 5-star card or anything like that. I think to say it's 3 stars would be pretty realistic. And just quickly for Arena, again, this is 1 star, absolutely. Like, it will probably be bottom bucket for a legendary, or maybe not quite bottom bucket because there are some bad legendaries, but second last bucket would probably be a fair place to put this card. If it's a choice between this and like Millhouse Mana Storm and Law Walker Cho, yeah, you're gonna take this. But if it's pretty much like any legendary outside of that in Arena, you're gonna take it. This really isn't good in Arena, but outside of Arena, it's actually got potential. It's interesting. Like, if this card came out in a previous set, in the year of the Raven, then it probably would have seen play just as a thwart to Togwaggle Druid. There are some decks that really struggle against Togwaggle Druid, and if you're a Baku build in particular, it can be very difficult to deal with Togwaggle Druid. Like, if you're Baku Warrior or a mid-range control-y Baku Mage, it can be very difficult dealing with Togwaggle Druid without Skulking Geist and or Mojo Master Zihi. And this would give you a big blowout in those situations, which would be pretty good. However, outside of that, like, because that Togwaggle is rotating out, so we'll move forward assuming that this is only applicable in situations where you naturally enter fatigue, meaning that, you know, it isn't the case where your opponent fatigues themselves and then swap decks with you. It's like both of you enter fatigue, or even if your opponent is playing a fatigue-based deck, that you enter that situation naturally, then this is a good card for that situation. You know, 7 mana to get 7 6/6s is very, very strong. The only card to really compare it to, I think, is Dragoncaller Elena, or Alana, whatever it's called. Obviously, this has a stronger effect than that, but I think Dragoncaller Alana is the better card in general, just because you don't have to wait until you're fatigued in order to use it. So you can use it in earlier situations. You can use it just to get 2 or 3 of the 5/5s out, just to make a push in certain situations. And even for the full effect, you can get Dragoncaller Alana off a lot earlier. So in most situations, this card won't really see much play. But I think that there are 2 exceptions to this. The first one, obviously, being if they release new cards that facilitate self-fatigue or something like that a bit more. They could release cards that synergize with this a bit more, in which case obviously this card will be better. It will go from being, like, assuming there aren't any explicit synergies with this card, it will just be a 3-star card. I know that 3 stars been thrown around quite a lot, but that's really the sort of place to put this, is like a card that you're going to use if you're having particular situations where it might be needed, and it's very good in that situation, but outside of that, it isn't very good. However, I would say that there's one deck already that can synergize with it quite a lot, which is, or one class even, which is Rogue, just because Rogue has Myra's Unstable Element, which obviously puts you into fatigue. You draw through your whole deck. And the great thing about Rogue with that as well is that you can put yourself out of fatigue with cards that put more cards back into your deck. So going back to the previous previous clip or video or whatever, the Togwaggle scheme now is pretty interesting because you can fatigue yourself, play this, shuffle another one into your deck. There's going to be a lot of crazy interactions with that, in my opinion, and I think that that's something that is going to become apparent pretty much straight away. The synergies between this and Myra's Unstable Element are really noteworthy. So for that context, this card is 4-star minimum. Yeah, I think 4 stars is fair, because, like, best case scenario, you draw Myra's Unstable Element on curve, you activate it, you might not get this because it's random as to, or relatively random as to the cards that you're going to get if you activate Myra's Unstable Element when you have, you know, like 10 or more cards in your deck. You can't guarantee the cards that you're going to see. And obviously if you use Myra's Unstable Element later when you know the cards that you're going to draw into, you are going to, well, this is a bit more fair. It's not as fair, it's still really good, just 7 mana getting 7 6/6s, but later on in the game it's a lot fairer than, say, if you're playing this on turn 7 and getting the full board on turn 7. Yeah, for Myra's Unstable Element synergy with this, I would say this is at least 4 stars. Outside of that, it's a 3-star tech card that you might play in certain decks. And yeah, Arena, again, 1 star, pretty trash. But yeah, certainly got to note that Myra's Unstable Element synergy, because the card is delicious. And now you've got Togwaggle scheme as well. There's going to be a lot of this floating around, in my opinion. This already gives a pretty clear direction for Rogue to go into, which is pretty sweet, because the card is awesome. Then you've got Kalecgos, which is, in my opinion, one of the most slept on cards. This card is super duper good. I would say it's at least 4 stars, but really I'm gonna give it 5 stars, and it's obviously 5 stars in Arena as well, no question. But the reason why I'd give it 5 stars, even in Standard, is because it is just immediate impact. It doesn't look it, but it is, because you play it for 10. You're only going to be playing this in like a mage deck that has big spells already. It might not necessarily be a control mage build, it could be more mid-rangey, but you're gonna have Flame Strikes, Blizzards, probably Blast Wave unless the quality of big spells improves. There are going to be big spells that you're going to want to use this with anyway. You're going to have them already, so at worst when you cast this, you're going to be discovering a spell for next turn and then casting the big spell that you're going to cast anyway. So let's say you're going to cast Flame Strike anyway, you play this, discover a spell, activate it. You're essentially getting a 4/12 dragon for 3 with your first spell each turn costs 0 starting from the next turn. So if they don't kill this, then you're getting huge amounts of tempo from then on. And if they do kill it, well, you activated your Flame Strike that you were going to activate anyway. Again, you got a 4/12 for 3 mana. They're probably not going to be able to clear that for the same amount of mana that you paid for it. Like Polymorph will be 4, Hex will be 4. I can't really think of any way to get rid of it that costs cheaper. So the card is super good, and you get to discover a spell as well. So even in potential pinch situations where you don't have the spell, maybe your player get the spell you need, manage to clutch your way out of that situation. Maybe in some situations you'll play it, get the burn spell you need to strike him for game. There's just so much flexibility with it, and the card is just so high impact. Like, you can compare it to Arcane Dynamo, which is a very fair card, but it's fair because you don't get to cast the card straight away. If Arcane Dynamo was a 4 mana 3/4 with the same effect, it would be a very playable card even in Standard, because you would probably be able to cast the card straight away. There's also that, I can't remember what it's called, but the 8 mana 5/4 where you discover a spell and activate it. That card has some playability, but isn't really that good because you have to cast the spell straight away. So if you discover a spell that you don't want to use straight away, it's pretty bad. There's no real flexibility with it. This has tons of flexibility because you don't have to cast a spell straight away. So even if you discover a bad spell or a relatively bad spell, you don't have to cast it. You can cast one of your other spells, get that effect. Oh man, this card is super good. And to top it all off, it's a dragon as well, which Mage really needs. I think that Mage only really needs a card like this in order to make Dragon Mage a thing, because any spell-based class will do well with dragons given the directions the dragons are going in by virtue of the fact that that 2 mana 2/2 discovers a spell. So it suits Priest, suits Mage. If like a card like this basically just makes that deck open. If this weren't a dragon, then it would be a good sort of standalone card that works within some strategies already. But the fact that it's a dragon as well means that it opens up Dragon Mage deck where it previously wouldn't do as well, given that Sindragosa, is that what it's called? Sindragosa? That Sindragosa is rotating out. You need those sort of class exclusive spells in order to really do well. So this card is super good, and I have no qualms giving it 5-star. Like, I would say that, you know, it isn't necessarily as powerful as Chef Nomi, just because Chef Nomi has that crazy Myra's Unstable Element synergy, and Rogue would already have several ways to abuse this card. You can Shadow Step it, you can Togwaggle scheme it back into the deck. I don't know if Lab Recruiter is rotating out, but Lab Recruiter is a bit extreme to use with this anyway. You would only want to shuffle one in, but obviously that's a more powerful effect, but this is just like, pretty much every playable Mage deck is going to play it, and this will open up decks in and of itself. Super duper good. So yeah, Kalecgos is just the absolute pengness. It's so good, and you can even play it, like, this makes random things like Malagos playable in Mage just because, again, of the Dragon synergy. And the first spell each turn costs 0 while it's face up. They have to kill it. If they don't kill it, then it's just gonna snowball so much tempo for you. Even if you get something like Luna's Pocket Galaxy with it, it's not bad. You can just play it, discover a spell. Like, even if you're ahead on tempo, I mean, you can play it, discover a removal spell, activate Luna's Pocket Galaxy if you're playing that already. Nah, it's very good. So yeah, 5 stars in both instances, in my opinion. Then you've got Evil Miscreant, which is a really good card. So you get the lackeys, right? The lackeys are basically like spare parts, but they're a lot better than spare parts because they're 1 mana 1/1s. So even if they were 1 mana 1/1s with the same effects as the spare parts, they would inherently be better than the spare parts because they have a body, so they're just more efficient for the mana cost. But the effects of the lackeys are much better than the spare parts. So you have Battlecry, discover a spell, Battlecry, summon a random 2-cost minion, Battlecry, give a friendly minion +1 attack and rush, Battlecry, deal 2 damage, and Battlecry, transform a friendly minion into one that costs 1 more. All of those are really good effects. Like, even if you made them 2 mana, they would still be sufficiently good effects that the lackeys would be good. But they're on 1 mana 1/1s as well. So that's absolutely it's absolutely insane. Like, it's really good value for it. So then, as far as Evil Miscreant goes, 3 mana 1/5, add 2 random lackeys to your hand. This card is super good. I would say that, and again, it synergizes so nicely with Rogue as well, because the lackeys enable combo. So if you have like multiple of these, you resolve the first one, then the lackeys open up the second one. Super duper good, and the lackeys effects are really strong as well. I would give this like 5-star in Arena for sure, but in Constructed, in Constructed I'd probably give it 4 stars, and the reason why I'd give it 4 stars is just because its stats are a bit weird. Like, if it were a 3 mana 3/3 with the same effect, it would be 5 stars easily. It's very defensively statted, which sort of goes against what tempo miracle-ish rogues tend to try and go for. But outside of that, like, even if it were a 3-mana 1/5, add 2 spare parts to your hand, it would still be a very good card, just because, you know, you're getting 2 cards for playing it in a deck that already likes having low cost cards, because it can take advantage of those, because the combo effects are always plus value effects. But the fact that the lackeys are so good as well, yeah, like, this is a, yeah, it's a 4-star card in my opinion. The lackeys are super good, and even though this is understated, really, it's not unplayably statted. It's not 0/5 or something. You know, it's got some utility, but the lackeys are just super good. So yeah, pretty good card there. Then you've got Hagatha's Scheme, which is much worse than Togwaggle's Scheme, really. So yeah, deal 1 damage to all minions, upgrades each turn. So at the end of each of your turns where it's in your hand, it upgrades. So the same as Togwaggle's Scheme. At the end of each of your turn, it will upgrade. This is obviously pretty bad if it's a 5-mana deal 1 damage to all minions, which is really the biggest downside to this card, is that it's an awful top deck. It's just pretty bad in a lot of situations. Like, you have to have at least 2 turns of having this in your hand in order for it to be good. Whether or not this will be good depends on the way that Shaman goes as a class. If it goes into more of a control-based spell class, then this card will be pretty good, because they've lost Volcano, so they need something, and this does give good reward on investment if you manage to stack it up for a while. So, like, if let's say you open with this, then by turn 5, by the time you're playing it, it's gonna be like 5-mana deal 5 to all minions. And if you play it later, if you play on like turn 10, it's just gonna be 5-mana clear the board, which is really good. But obviously the downside to that is that you have to have it in your hand from early. So something like Twisting Nether, you might say, well, if you open with Twisting Nether, you also aren't able to play that until later on in the game anyway. While, at least with this, if you open with it, it's like a 3-mana reduction on that. But you can draw Twisting Nether later, and it's the same. While with this, you can't top deck it later and have it be good. Like, if you top deck it later, it's just unplayably bad. You can't discover it, you can't do any of that sort of stuff. So, I mean, it's a very fair card for sure. But in terms of standard, it really depends on the sort of shape that Shaman takes as a class. And obviously, you know, there might be some weird way to exploit this. We haven't seen all the cards. They might make these cards better somehow, but I doubt it, to be honest. So, as far as the face value at the moment, I would say this is like 2-star in constructed, and I say 2-star like it isn't unplayably bad. There's some good blowout potential with it. It definitely has potential, and if Control Shaman ends up becoming a thing, then this card will see play. It's an anti-aggro tool that they need, and it doesn't have overload, so there is benefit to it compared to Lightning Storm and stuff like that. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't really have any synergy with curve-based Shaman, which has tended to be the sort of Shaman decks that do well. If you look at Even Shaman, like Elemental Shaman crops up now, Shudderwock, not the Shudderwock combo deck, but just Battle Cry effects with Shudderwock as the top end. Those tend to be very curve-based, and this card does not interact well with those decks at all, so we'll have to see the sort of future shape that it takes. This doesn't interact with the Hagatha legendary card in any real way at all, other than being a bad spell in most instances that the Horror can get. Maybe sometimes giving this to the Horror will be pretty good. I guess it will upgrade. I don't know if the Horror will upgrade if this is the thing that you discover. I assume that it is, because otherwise that's pretty bad. in that case, yeah, this can be alright. You attach this onto the horror, and then the horror becomes a 5 mana 5/5, deal 2 to all minions if you choose to play it that next turn. That's pretty blowout. But again, that's more of an extension of the Hagatha legendary rather than this. As far as this card on its own, it's okay. In Arena, I would say this card is actually better. I would say this is like a 3 to 4 star card in Arena, to be honest. Just because in Arena you do get more time for it, and really, in Arena, a 5 mana 3/3, sorry, a 5 mana deal 3 damage to all minions is pretty good. Like, that's pretty fair in Arena. And if you get more top end potential with it, then obviously it's just absolutely blowout. So, but the trade off for that is that it's a bad top deck. So, yeah, I think at least 3 stars in Arena is pretty fair for it. Like, you will get wrecked by this in Arena sometime, but that really depends on where Shaman go as a class. As far as constructed, this card is is pretty bad, except for a few instances. So I'll give it 2 stars for constructed and 3 stars for Arena. Then we've got the Forest Aid. So twin spell, summon 5, 2/2 Treants. I think this card reads better than it is. Firstly, in Arena, I'd say this is a 4-star card just because it provides value. So twin spell is like, you activate it, you get another copy to your hand, but that copy loses twin spell. So essentially, anything with twin spell will double up. That's obviously pretty good in Arena, just because value is king in Arena. So yeah, pretty good in Arena, but outside of Arena, pretty bad, to be honest. Like, I think that it's good that they're pushing Treants and trying to make them work. However, Treants are only gonna work if there are sort of early game cards that provide you with Treants, and that would be kind of fair considering how they've nerfed all the early game mana ramp cards that used to exist for Druid. If they replace them with Treant stuff, then the Druid decks will be able to function by going wide, which we've seen in the past with various wide-based aggro Druid decks. I think that would be pretty fair, given how much they've nerfed Druid as a class without, you know, making it too strong. I think that Aggro Hunter at the moment is way too strong, mainly because of I can't remember what that card is called. The 3 mana draw 3 beasts, like that card is stupid. But so long as they don't give Treants anything too good in the early game, that should be the direction that they take it in. However, this is quite antithetical to wide Druid, just because it's a big mana card that doesn't really give you a big mana payoff. You're just getting 5/2 Treants, which is technically speaking fair for the mana cost, but you know, it's just not that good. Like, when are you ever gonna see this in constructed? What follow-up play can you do when you activate this, get 5/2 Treants, and you only have 2 mana left? You probably can't do anything. So yeah, this card is pretty bad. Now, obviously, it remains to be seen. Maybe there'll be some Treant synergies that end up making this card better. However, at face value, I think that if they want to make Treants a thing, they need to make more early game cards that produce Treants. Like, landscaping is pretty good for what it is, but honestly, they need just like a 1 mana spell that summons a 2/2 Treant, or a 2 mana 1/1 that summons a 2/2 Treant. Stuff like that. Those might not necessarily be the best examples, but that's the sort of thing that they need to do. And then they need early to mid game cards that synergize with the Treants as well. Otherwise, it's just not gonna work. Like, who cares if you get to transform your Treants into 5/5s when when that's happening over the course of 2 turns? And even if it doesn't, you're spending all your mana to do it, and then they're just vanillas. Like, you don't get anything for it. The fact that you can discover a spell with that 2 mana 2/3 is really good, but you can't take advantage of that as things stand right now because the card quality just isn't good enough. So In terms of constructed, for now, I'd honestly give this card 1 star in constructed for now. Potentially 2 stars later, like you might play one of this in the Treant deck if the Treant deck becomes good, but from the looks of things, it doesn't look like this card is going to be good for that. However, you know, not every card has to be a winner, and I like this card in terms of what it is. I think it's cool to introduce the twin spell mechanic in this way, and again, it's pretty good in Arena. You would take this in Arena. It's good value. Any sort of value in Arena is delicious. So that's pretty awesome. Like, you use this, then they have to clear all the Treants, and if they clear all the Treants, you can just do the same thing again. Very strong. In Arena, that is. In Standard, is trash. Then you've got Forbidden Words, which I love this card. I think this card is just the bee's knees, but not because it's overpowered, but just because it's a very cute sort of tech card. So spend all your mana, destroy a minion with that much attack or less. You can compare this to Forbidden Flame, which was the mage version, and I think that this is much better than Forbidden Flame, to be honest. Like, for 2 mana, this is a worse Shadow Word Pain, and for 5 mana or more, it's a worse Shadow Word Death. However, the fact that it can function as both a Shadow Word Pain and a Shadow Word Death makes it very notable compared to Shadow Word Pain and Shadow Word Death. Like, you might play one Pain, 1 Death, and 2 of this instead of 2 Pain and 2 Death. And depending on the context of the meta, this really lets you optimize your deck in a way that might not be functional with just the 2 Shadow Words alone. And this has very useful interactions in a lot of situations, you know, like just using this to get rid of like Moshog Enforcer, Witchwood Grizzly, stuff like that. This card is really good for that. It's got a lot of flexibility, and it's going to be able to hit pretty much every relevant minion in the game. So yeah, really strong tech card. I really like the design with it. Obviously, in terms of raw quote-unquote power, it isn't as good at doing what Shadow Words do as the Shadow Words do, right? Like, Shadow Word Death is better than this at being Shadow Word Death. Shadow Word Pain is better than this at being Shadow Word Pain. But this has a lot more flexibility and functionality than either of those 2 cards, and this finally gives Priest the ability to hit minions with 4 attack, which they previously had not been able to do. But that's pretty fair to be able to hit minions with 4 attack for 4 mana. So super juicy card, to be honest. For Arena, I'd give this card 4 stars at least. I'd probably say 5 stars for Arena. You're gonna be hard pressed not to pick this in Arena. If it's a choice between this and one of the Shadow Words, you're probably gonna pick this just because of the flexibility of it. Even if it's a bit worse for what it is, it's, you know, that flexibility comes up a lot more in Arena than the mana value that the Shadow Words provide. And in terms of constructed, outside of very centralized meta games, like if it's a very control-based meta, then you're probably going to prioritize Shadow Word Death. If it's a very aggro-y meta, you're probably going to prioritize Shadow Word Pain. But outside of that, this card is going to come up quite a lot, again, just because of the flexibility that it offers. So, yeah, super juicy card. And you can spend 0 on it to kill a Doomsayer. That's sick as well. So yeah, for constructed, I'd give it 4 stars. I'd say this is a very useful card that will really provide Priest with a useful asset that they lack right now. So, super juicy card. And then finally, I think we've got Spellward Jeweler. So 3 mana, 3/4 Battlecry. Your hero can't be targeted by spells or hero powers until your next turn. Very cool card. the applications of it are kind of obvious. It's going to stop those crazy Malagos sword decks. This would have been nice for the Tavern Brawl that just happened about a week ago, where Malagos was everywhere. But you know, this is a very face value card. I think that it's 3 stars in both Arena and Standard. In Constructed, you know exactly when it's going to be used, which is only in situations where face spell decks are a thing. It's never really going to have any use outside of that. So it's only going to be a tech option in some situations, and as a tech option for those situations, it's good for what it is, because it's a 3 mana 3/4 with potential upside in those situations. Maybe you can say it's a 2-star, I guess, because it's not exactly that much value, but it's good for what it is. And right now it's sort of the best for what it is, because the only cards that you can compare this with so far, they all have to stick on the board in order to get the effect. So the fact that this just comes in, you get the battle cry, and they can't then kill this and be able to kill you as well, makes this the best anti-face combo card that exists right now for for what this card is made for. And in terms of Arena, it's just a 3 mana 3/4, and a vanilla 3 mana 3/4 would be a 3-star anyway. It's got marginal upside, but 3 mana 3/4 is absolutely fair in Arena. So I'd say 3 stars across the board for Spellward Jeweler. So yeah, just to quickly run through, I guess, what I gave all of them, if I can remember. I can't remember what I gave Togwaggle Scene. Oh yeah, so 1 star in Arena, 3 star in Standard. You're gonna be seeing this with Chef Nomi, because it's too good for what it is. With Swampqueen Hagatha, 3 star in Constructed, 5 star in Arena. Then with all these cards, Arc Villain Rafaam, 1 star Constructed, 5 star in Arena, which is very weird. Chef Nomi, I'll give it 4 star in Standard, just because it's 5 star in the Myra's Unstable Element deck, and 3 stars in every other deck that doesn't synergize with it. Like, for its original purpose, or at its face value purpose, it's a 3 star, but Rogue is really gonna abuse this card, in my opinion, unless they end up with better synergies, which I don't think is the case. So yeah, I think 4 stars in Constructed for Chef Nomi, and 1 star in Arena. Kalecgos, 5 star in Standard and 5 star in Arena. Super good for Mage, and that's what Mage needed. Spellward Jeweler, 3 stars in Constructed, 3 stars in Arena. Forbidden Words, 4 star in Constructed and 5 star in Arena. Again, like, it's going to be high bucket. You're pretty much always going to pick it compared to most of the other removal, except for maybe some AoE removal. If this is directly alongside some AoE, you might want to take the AoE. But as a single target removal, this is pretty much unparalleled in Arena. Hagatha's Scheme, 2 star in Standard, 3 star in Arena. If Control Shaman becomes a thing, it might be a thing, otherwise no. Forest Aid, say 1 star in Standard and 4 star in Arena. And Evil Miscreant, I'll say 4 star in Standard and yeah, probably 5 star in Arena. Why not? It will be high bucket in Arena, and if it's not high bucket, then you're pretty much going to pick it over any other average card. This is an above average card, so if it's compared to to an average card, then you're going to take it. So yeah, those are my little reviews of the cards revealed so far. I'll discuss more as they come up, but yeah, thanks for watching, and see you around.